Welcome to the Eonics podcast, a podcast about software engineering, new ways of working, and lots of other interesting stuff. Today I have two very special guests. One is Parsa, returning guest. You were here once before, right?
Yes, once before I was talking about BDD and DDD.
Oh yeah, that was a very complicated interview, but that was cool.
And you can hear the voice of JP as well.
Yeah, I'm here.
So today we have a very strong table with lots of opinions because it's also a hot topic. We're going to talk about AI in the field of software engineering. So
yeah, many people talking about that.
Many people talking about that. But Parsa, you are the one suggesting the topic. Maybe you can give an opening.
Yeah, my topic was more like will AI, because it is a question. Every software engineer these days are worried whether their job will be taken over by AI.
Rightfully so, I would say.
So I had my own opinions about it. So the title that I wanted for this podcast was Will AI Take Over Software Engineering?
Okay.
So, but there are like two moving parts in this sentence. One is software engineering and one is AI. So before I get to my reasoning, I would like to explain what these are exactly.
Okay.
But first I wanted to ask you guys, so what would you say a software engineer is as opposed to a developer or a coder? And by coder, I mean like an algorithmic coder, the ones that do like competitive programming, hired by Google normally to code complex mathematical stuff.
Right.
So there are like three types of programmers, let's say, developers, software engineers, coders, mathematical coders. So how do you guys distinguish these from each other?
I mean, I would say a software engineer, the word engineer recalls for me like traditional engineering, right? Building a bridge and stuff. So to me, an engineer is the one who's kind of responsible for actually delivering the full working product with its whole design and architecture.
Exactly.
Everything, like the high level view. And maybe he isn't even necessarily building the, like he's not working on the bridge doing the steel stuff, but he's more like on the high level.
On the high level, exactly.
Yeah, that's how I would see it.
So distinguish between developer, coder?
That one is a bit more murky for me. What would you say, JP? Or is it the same for you?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an opinion about that. I would say that, well, there probably is a big difference between like the developer just getting actions and implementing those actions and like the mathematical programmer or coder who knows a lot about, okay, how does this algorithm perform as opposed to that algorithm. So yeah, maybe that's a difference there.
Yeah, I completely agree. So a developer, in my opinion, is someone, as it says, the definition is in the title. A developer is someone who develops a code, as opposed to an engineer who engineers it. But a developer doesn't necessarily knows the design stuff, how to design, how to architect. Yep. But this engineer knows how to develop as well as knowing how to architect, how to engineer. Yeah. So every designing architecture, knowing how programming languages work in general, these go under the umbrella of engineering.
Right.
So this is the explanation of software engineering, but what is an AI?
Yeah, that's a big topic.
Yeah,
so I mean, now of course, nowadays...
Not to make it very complex, how would you define AI?
The big thing with software engineering and coding specifically, when you talk about AI, is of course now the large language models, I would say, because those are the most...
But that's NLP. That's one part of one small.
Yeah,
part
it is
of
a small
AI.
part. A small part of AI, but it is the most. It is a very relevant one in terms of
right now.
Yes,
because ChatGPT is using a very elaborate version of NLPs. So that's why.
So
it's very
that
hot these days.
Exactly, but there's also other stuff. But
yeah, to me currently, AI is like a big knowledge base. So I'm using ChatGPT a lot, but you could also make the point that AI is like a prediction model. Basically, you feed it stuff, and then based on that stuff, it can also predict other stuff that it doesn't necessarily has got an input for. Yeah. So I think on a core level it is that. But if you take a look at the more practical applications right now, I would say it's a knowledge base also for developers to help you come up with nice algorithms.
Keyword on the word knowledge.
Right.
That's I'm gonna use that later in my reasoning. So let's remember knowledge based. What did you call it? Knowledge based platform?
Well, just a knowledge base, right? So it's a place to go to. I think Marcus and myself had a bit of a discussion about that lately. So where do you go to these days if you want to get knowledge? Do you go to Google or do you go to ChatGPT? And for me, the answer these days is ChatGPT because it really outperforms Google in every way.
It does, yeah.
But so knowledge base, just a place to go to get more information about anything.
So, but yeah, exactly. I agree with that. But if I want to get more complex about it, not to go too technical, AI would be a mimic of human brain. So in our brain, we have neurons, and between the neurons, we have connectors, and then these connectors are called dendrites. So any neuron that gets any experience, any outside experience, would fire up some pulses that says like, do this or do that. So experience comes in, and some action or some outcome comes from those experiences. So we came up with a model, and by we, I mean like scientists, human beings. We came up with a model called neural network. And what neural networks does is the mimic of the brain using mathematical equation and calculus. Specifically, a very simple one is gradient descent, which basically tries to find the slope into the minimized part of an error function. So basically, a neural network tries to learn patterns from experiences that it received and tries to minimize the error of its prediction.
Right. So it's predicting output. It's trying to minimize this error of its prediction based on input.
Exactly.
Trying
so
to
I'm
reach a
going to
certain
give you
output.
an example. For instance, like you have a neural network model, and you give thousands of images of either cat or non-cat, and you define whether this picture is either a cat or not. So based on some mathematical equations and some iterations, it finds a pattern, and this is the interesting part. We really don't know what pattern it finds, and we really don't know how it finds it.
Just like in humans, right? In a way.
Yeah. We just know that our mathematical equations work, and the gradient descent, the calculus method, finds the slope to the minimum of the function of the error. So its prediction would not have, would be very accurate, let's say. Not 100%, but very accurate.
But there's some factors here, of course, right? Because if you just make a neural network of, 3 nodes, then you can probably not find the cat in that. So you need to have like a network with proper size, proper layers.
There's a lot of fine-tuning that happens.
Right.
And a lot of ways of fine-tuning, not just extending the neural network horizontally or vertically, but there are a lot of other factors that you can fine-tune in a neural network. Anyways, so now that we know what AI does exactly, so basically we can say it gets experiences and outcomes, or inputs and outputs, and whatever you want to call it. And it would learn a pattern based on these inputs and outputs, and you can give it a new input, a new experience, and it can predict what the output is with a very accurate.
It becomes more accurate the more you train it, right?
Exactly. So now that we know it's how it works, what can we conclude from that? I will give a hint. The input that is given to the neural network is given by us, by human beings. So what can we conclude from that?
Well, I think what we can conclude is that if we train it on enough things that we humans find useful, i.e. lots of computer code and lots of programs, then which are very similar often, then there's a high chance that it will become very good at creating well-functioning computer programs.
Of course.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you see happening.
Yeah, exactly. It could be very, very accurate with its decisions.
Yeah, the point that you seem to be trying to make is okay. So the inputs and the outputs are defined by humans. So there's no future in which humans are not necessary anymore.
Yeah, that's my point. But the point I was trying to get at later on was that it's knowledge, and the keyword knowledge here is going to be as well as human beings over time. So it's not going to be, it's going to be way better than one human being, but every knowledge that we had since now, it can have access to it.
Right.
And it can be very fast at it.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? That means, and this is my 2 points that are very important. That means it's just going to be a knowledge-based, as JP said, it's going to be a knowledge-based platform, but it's never going to be creative, and it's never going to be wise. And by wise, I mean, let me give you an example. Let's say you want to play a chess match and you have to bet on it, and you want to play a chess match with AI. They say if you lose, you have to give 1,000 euros, but if you win, you'll get 100,000 euros. So if you win, you're gonna gain a lot more than you lose, and if you lose, you're not gonna lose that much money. So, but ChatGPT is in front of you. Would you play that match with AI?
I would not.
No, I would not, because I would lose.
That means you're wise. ChatGPT will play with you every time.
Yeah.
It's not gonna take into account that is this wise to do that or not.
Well, isn't that also something? I mean, wise is a very vague notion, right? So, I mean, you see this with a lot of problems. Like they have all these tests that they do, and then they fail a bunch, and then they train some more, and they train for these specific situations in which it failed. So in that sense, I feel like if everything AI can do is like, I don't know, like a it's like a set, right? Mathematically speaking, if you look at it that way, and the set is always getting bigger, it's never getting smaller.
Yeah.
So I feel like people that say like, oh, it cannot be creative or it cannot be wise, like the set of things that they can point to is just going to shrink and shrink and shrink, and their argument is going to get less strong over time. That's my belief. I'm not saying it's an AI can literally do everything or anything at some point, but I think the use cases that we now still think it will not be able to do, I think a lot of them it will be able to do eventually.
But everything it learns from the knowledge it has been given. So it's a knowledge base. How can it be creative?
Yeah, but if you also learned everything, right, from knowledge, you went to school and stuff, and you learned from your parents and this kind of things, and then you got creative with the knowledge that you had, right? You combined it in different ways, and then you came up with novel solutions, right? Isn't that kind of how it works in general? Also,
that's
for
because we are human beings. We have that creative ability. We have that creative sense in us.
What is creative in this way? Because I feel that, well, the definition is always a bit on the human side, right? So what do we feel is creative? So in my opinion, like traditional algorithms, they are not creative. You just input A, and you always know, okay, I'm going to get B. If you are talking to ChatGPT, it can be very creative in a sense that it can be way more creative than any human I can talk to. And you can put that on any type of skill, right? But so if I were to ask AI, okay, come up with, 10 different solutions for the homelessness problem in, let's say, any town, it is going to come up with all kinds of things that I think could be considered creative from a person. So if you ask the same question to a person, I think AI can come up with better answers. Also thinking outside of the box.
But then Parsa's point would be it still comes up with that solution based on
human knowledge. That's what I'm trying to say.
But that's not a problem, right? I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not useful.
It is useful. So I'm getting there. My point is also, so I'm going to give you another example. So many years ago, if people could, before calculators were invented, if people could calculated an equation in their mind very fast and very effective, they would be very successful in their career. But then calculators came along, and it can solve equations faster and more accurate than anyone in this world. So then it's not really a matter of how fast you can calculate in your brain. It's a matter of how well you can use a calculator. And even in universities, we had like courses to teach us how to use a engineering calculator.
We had it in high school with the graphical calculator. You had lessons in how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, since, as I said, creativity means something very new, something that is not out there yet. You come up with it, you design it, you manufacture it, or whatever. If you can use AI in your advantage, like how you do calculators, like many, many years ago, how people use calculators, that person would be very successful in their career.
Right, that's already what you're seeing now.
That doesn't mean that AI would take over the people.
But doesn't that mean that talking about, like the software engineering side of things and the coders, developers, that at least if you say it in a more general sense, the professional field of building software is still gonna change a lot.
It's still going to change a lot, but yeah. So, all right. So, back in the 1990s, when internet was not a thing yet, people, if they wanted to send mail, it would take like 2 days. But then came the internet. Whoever could use emails, they could send the mail like in a matter of seconds. But then came search engines. Whoever could use search engine in their advantage.
That's what I did.
Exactly.
I always was very smart, but I was just very good at using search engines.
Exactly. So did you learn how effective you would be and how successful you would be using a search engine? And if people didn't know how to use it. And also there is a factor that we have to take into account, how to use a search engine. So for example, you can if you want to make a pasta, and let's say you don't like tomatoes, you write down recipe for pasta and gives you a recipe for pasta. You make a pasta. It turns out it's bolognese and you don't like it.
It's tomatoes.
Yeah, it's just tomatoes. But then if you be more specific about what you want cream in it or whatever, it would give you. So you can be very and here's where wisdom comes in. You have to be wise. This is a very simple example, by the way. This is not.
No, but I see your point. But do you? Let me put it in a numbers way. Do you think, like for example, say a bank?
Yeah,
we all know banks. We all have professional experience, maybe even working at banks as a software engineers of some kind. So, do you think a bank in 10 years will have a similar amount of people that they pay a salary to build their software or not, or more or less? What do you think?
They will have the same amount of engineers.
Same amount of engineers.
Engineers, in my opinion. But not same amount of developers.
Right, the engineering role will change.
Developing, as I said, it's just developing a code.
Right.
So programming, so AI, as I said, like a calculator, AI could be very effective with giving you a code. AI would be very effective with giving you an algorithm as a code. But it's not going to be able to have that creativity, that design creativity, that architectural knowledge that humans have.
But is that, for again, in the specific example of a bank, but because I'm not saying that's in every example, but isn't the bank a place where you don't need so much creativity, maybe, in terms of...
No, it actually is very complicated.
It's complicated. I'm not saying it's not complicated.
The architecture becomes very complicated to a point that even architects do not agree with each other. And then they make an architecture, they give it out. A few months later, we learn that, this was missed.
But isn't that something that an AI could just as well do, right? It's just, so you have people architects
Yep.
considering a field and coming up with solutions. Architect A says, all right, I want to propose X, and architect B says, all right, I want to propose Y, and they probably both have good arguments for their position.
Yeah.
So, well, they fight or they have a discussion, and at the end, it's somebody says, okay, we're going to do whatever, a bit of X and a bit of Y, and then comes reality. So you put the input into the AI, and then you get an output, and the output is flawed, right? And then you learn from the output, and you force feedback into the system again, and then you reiterate, and then you probably get a better solution. So through going through the motions, you get to a better solution. But that really, to me, sounds a lot like how an AI would learn.
True, but AI doesn't have the full context, and it's actually not designed to have a very wide context.
Isn't it?
But that will also become bigger. But what you're saying, I think, is a good example in the sense that what I do see as you call it creativity, and I'm not sure if I would agree with that or the wisdom part, but I would say more maybe, again, going back to the concrete example of a bank, that, okay, you can come up with a plan in your head like an architect does or like an AI does, right? You describe like, oh, I have this bank and I need this environment and I need you to build this and I need you to build this. But this input will always be an imperfect representation of the actual real life situation that will occur once you actually put the system in production, right? That's the problem, right? You come up with a solution and then you deploy it, and then reality hits, and reality is always different than your conception of it. And then, so in that sense, I kind of agree that an AI will not be able to kind of like, how do you say, do everything without any kind of input, because there will always be this like real world stuff that's kind of
you
like
have to
happening.
Feed it your creativity.
But I don't really agree to the creativity point, because in my opinion, creativity is, well, if you take a look at the creativity of a developer, that's typically also based on existing knowledge. So hardly any developer goes outside of the realm of, okay, we need Spring Boot, and we need a 3-tiered architecture, and we need to do, I don't know, RESTful services, and we need to have like an ORM to access the database, blah, blah, blah. So all of that is existing knowledge that an AI also has.
But isn't the creativity then more than talking to the business and then from this whatever mess of things they tell you, coming up with what you actually need to build? Maybe that's more than, in that sense, creative in a way.
But that is, first of all, not really the job of the developer.
That's true.
And second of all, that is actually something that LLMs are very good at, right? So you just feed it all kinds of crap, and then at the end you ask for a summary of all that crap, and you typically get a pretty good summary.
Yeah, but the creativity thing is that you use knowledge. Of course, you already have to have some knowledge before you can do something. If you're a painter, you already should know how to use the brush and how to use the broom in order to create something amazing. But
to me, creativity is creating something from existing stuff, right? I think that's exactly. Also what a painter does, right? You have all the inputs. You have your mind, you have your paint, you have your canvas, you have anything that you need, and then
but a normal person cannot create that image anymore.
Well, it depends. A normal person, any person can paint. It's just a matter of, okay, how beautiful is it? Right?
But I think it's more about, it's almost like more like a philosophical point, because I know that, going back to your original point, in a way, I agree in the sense that by definition, the AI is a prediction system of a kind, or whatever. How, of course, it's very complicated, but in essence, it's kind of like a prediction algorithm.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that actually human brains are also, in a way, prediction algorithms. And I think what creativity is, and that's why I don't know if you know about this, but do you know what it's called, JP? There's this parameter, if you use algorithms, that you can tune, which is kind of the creativity parameter, because that's also, when they sometimes hallucinate, that's if that parameter is out of whack. Like you can give it freedom to go a bit more out of the box with its predictions. That's kind of And so you could see that as kind of the creativity parameter in a way. So I think that's what if you, for example, what you say about a painter is like, okay, it's if a painter that's painting a building, it's adhering very strict to a very straight prediction, right? Because there's these walls and they need to be painted in this color, and it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
And like Picasso was someone whose prediction algorithm was kind of like very wide.
Yeah.
So he gave himself a lot of creative freedom, and he had a lot of skills, and therefore he could kind of create things that other prediction algorithms, aka
prediction
humans,
anymore. But if you create something new, like even in engineering world, we have the NP problems and P problems, as JP knows. So the NP problems are problems.
NP hard problems.
NP hard problems.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm not going to get very deep into it, but people are trying to come up with algorithms to reduce NP hard problems to NP complex
it's still an
problems.
open question.
No, for solving one of the NP complex problems in polynomial and
it's
destroying the world, that's another podcast.
Yeah,
but
we should do that one as well.
Yeah, we can. I have very interesting ideas about that as well. I think if someone solves that problem, the world would be destroyed. And if anyone has been already solved it, they have been probably incarcerated somewhere.
But let me put it in this way: what would be a falsifiable, a realistic falsifiable example, if that's what it's called for you, that an AI could be creative? What would be a test that like a Turing, like your version of a Turing test, but then for creativity? What would that look like?
I mean, like I brought up the example for NP problems, that people who come up with the way to reduce NP hard problems into from NP complete problems, those people are creative. That they didn't get that knowledge. They know about other algorithms, but they came up with that algorithm by themselves. That algorithm was not there before. Or we can even I can even give you like better example. Like Einstein came up with a relativity theory. That came out of nowhere. Like that wasn't something that was predicted.
Right, but then I get back to my point. That's not what the software engineer at a bank is doing, right?
They are, but not in that context, not that big, but they are actually.
But isn't that really, when you take a look at Einstein's example, right? Isn't that really the same as the cat example of a neural network? You feed it images of a cat, and in some way it finds the pattern, right? Yeah. It finds the pattern in all the cat images, and probably is also able to paint you a cat if you extend a bit on the functionality. So you feed it input, like reality, and you say, okay, this output is good, this output is not good, and then it's able to detect the signature of a cat. And in my opinion, that is exactly what Einstein did, right? So you see reality, you try to come up with patterns that match that reality, and some of them are false and some of them are true, and at the end he came up with E is MC squared. So he found a pattern in the chaos, and I think that is exactly what AI is doing, and I also think that it's pretty good at doing that, and it's also probably will be able to come up with patterns in the physics world that have not been found by humans.
I think I don't agree with that, because you're using the word detect to, in my opinion, to compare two completely different scenarios here, with image prediction and what Einstein did. So sure, Einstein detected a new pattern, but then that requires creativity. That's what I don't want to get too philosophical about that, but that requires creativity. Predicting an image of a cat it doesn't require creativity. It's based on the knowledge that we gave it before.
Isn't creativity the way you use it now? And this is what I kind of feel that you see a lot with the AI discussions, is that because they are becoming so advanced and they can do so much, that we start to again kind of wall off these like silos of things we call creativity or wisdom or whatever to kind of try to keep the argument that there are some things that they won't do, but aren't they in the end like more refined versions of what it is already doing? And it's only a matter of degree and not a matter of like the functionality is there in essence. It just needs to be further refined for it to get
True,
there. Or
but
do you think there's some fundamental flaw or whatever you want to call it, and that some things it will never be able to do?
No, I don't think it would surpass anything outside of human knowledge. That's what I actually believe. Like for instance, when I actually did this in real life. I tried to come up with a code, and I asked AI to come up with this code for me, and then he gave me the code. I read it. It was very fast actually, and it was very complete. Everything was there except the fact that it was susceptible to race condition.
Right.
And if for people who are watching, if they don't know what race condition is when you write a code but you don't take the concurrency into account, so two users can simultaneously.
But did you ask it? Did you ask it to make it?
Exactly. That's what I said. Tell you, like, if we use search engine and you use AI in an effective way, wise way, then we can take advantage of it. So then I was like, please take race condition into account. Still gave me some horrible code.
But that doesn't force your point, right? So you need humans to check up on AI.
Yeah,
and
that is definitely true.
But still, you can give your creativity to AI.
But isn't that's I would say that's almost more proving the point that it's just like human in the sense that if you're working at a bank and you write your code, then you will have a peer review, by another software engineer, and he will say, hey, you didn't take concurrency into account.
But I think you could also create an AI that comes up with a list of things that you need to check. If there's an algorithm, what you need to check for, and then ask the other AI that is actually generating the code. Okay, did you check for concurrency? Did you check for this? Did you check for
And this
that?
is actually an interesting area of research, I know, because you were talking about, it's limited to human knowledge, but this is actually not really true anymore, in the sense that with these newest algorithms, and because they already use so much training data, the whole internet and whatever.
Still, they use training data from where?
Yeah, no. You know what they do now? They make synthetic training data. So they generate.
That's the thing. It's
data.
Still human given.
No. They generate. They use generated data to train the AI. So they create knowledge that. Well, you could argue then, is it human or is it not human anymore?
Synthetic data is still based on the real data.
That is in a way true, if you look at it that way.
But maybe we can come to a conclusion, because I think maybe we don't agree on the structural part of things, but I do think we agree on what the effect is going to be on the
let's talk about that.
software development world, right? So if you take a look at it short term, I think we can all agree that the developers that are out there just, I don't want to say just, but that are doing the tasks and getting, here's the problem, come up with maybe a simple...
Building the small features.
Exactly,
small
that don't have the
stories.
oversight that those type of jobs are going to go. Because AI is pretty good at those things.
Exactly.
And I think also when it comes to coming up with, algorithms that probably already were built, or there's some knowledge of these type of algorithms, that also those things are way better done by AI.
Yeah, applying existing algorithms
for the longest time,
program.
Google used to, or even like huge startups, even small startups, when you applied and you got accepted, the interview was a
Fizzbuzz
problem, a mathematical problem that you needed to code.
Yeah.
And even like back in the university, like we used to go into competition, competitive coding competitions, to write, map a mathematical problem into a solution that comes with a code. And that's not necessary. It's like the calculator example. It's not necessary anymore. So AI can come up with the best algorithm in the fastest possible.
But what I wonder about this, I think we're kind of in agreement, like you say. So you need software engineers, right? Like we started to overview the staff who are at the banks, who talk to the business, who are like, okay, this is what we're going to build. And then you have probably some kind of AIs who support this whole thing. So everything's fine. But what I'm always wondering is, so if this world comes to pass, how will the new generation of software engineers, because then you don't really have a path anymore, like a traditional path coming from a junior developer, because you will not have junior developers anymore, because that's all.
Well,
so how will that work? I'm always wondering about this.
With the advent of AI and ChatGPT, there will be a lot of new stuff being invented and come into the picture.
But how will you become that engineer with that knowledge if you don't need to really program anymore that much?
Yeah, you need to learn new things. So
but how do you get to be that software engineer that has that overview of that knowledge?
I think you still need
if you're
a lot of the knowledge that we have today as software engineers. So I think the example.
But how will you get it if those jobs are no longer there? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
The engineering job would be there,
but the entry points are not really there.
But if you just have the same education as you have now, right? So if you just follow a master's degree and you know all about concurrency and all those kind of problems, then instead of writing those algorithms yourself, you can guide an AI.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I can suppose that maybe junior quotes job would maybe be more of a you steer the AI to get some algorithms here and there instead of writing the algorithms yourself. So I think there's going to be new ways of software development, and I'm also thinking that we are going to be way more productive as a group of people, right? So
and this is also something I'm wondering, if we become more productive. This is also a question I've been asking myself. Does that mean, going back to that original question, that there will just be less engineers at a bank doing the same thing, or will the bank come up with more? There will be problems to solve because we're more productive. Yeah. So more software will be built, right? It can go two ways in that way.
New parts found out using AI in science and in the
right. That's what I also believe. Right.
And then you need to learn those that I don't know. Maybe it would be associated with AI, and then you need to be able to keep on a par with AI to be able.
So there will be more software built in the end. Not the same amount of software with less people.
No, I really think that, we've been hearing that for a long time, right? Software is eating the world. So everywhere you go, there is a requirement for software, and the reason for it not being there,
it's too expensive.
It's too expensive. There are not enough developers. Blah blah blah. So the moment that you, create that times 10 developer with the power of AI, something like that, right? So every developer is all of a sudden 10 times more productive. I think you can just build 10 times more software.
And companies will want to actually do that. That's kind of my question.
Maybe the other part of this is, all right, suddenly that small business that didn't have enough money to do it before, now all of a sudden has the ability to, instead of hiring a team of developers that is needed to create a piece of software, just one developer.
An interesting perspective I read about that yesterday was someone that was arguing that it would kill a lot of the SaaS industry, because if you look at it in a way, that SaaS is basically providing software engineering for companies that cannot afford it in a way, because they cannot hire their own programmers to solve their problems, so they pay another company.
No, I really don't agree to that, because I think that in the SaaS business, the whole purpose of the SaaS supplier is that being the specialist in that field and also doing all the innovative work. So you cannot replace that by just building.
No, but their argument was that SaaS usually solves, like 80% of your problem, but you deal with it anyway because you don't really have another solution. But in an AI world, maybe it would be relatively easy to make like a 100% solution, with relatively little. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that point, but I don't really think that is the point. I think that SaaS also drives innovation because they are very specialized in one particular field, and so they are trying to innovate in that field, and that really also helps to the customers to be able to to move forward. But it's because it's typically not just about, I want to solve this problem. It's also just, being ahead of the competition and stuff like that.
So, in the future, we will still have computer scientists who know all about algorithms, and then they can drive AI to write a lot of code. So
I think
our jobs are safe.
I think the calculator example is a very good example, right? So first, nowadays we need to be able to use AI to be successful. So I think that is maybe the takeaway from this conversation is learn AI. If you're a developer, you're not doing AI, go to
Yeah.
it because it's going to be required.
I like this motto: AI-driven development.
AI-driven development.
Yeah, that would be a good model.
So will this change happen, or maybe it is already happening? Will it happen like gradually, or are you considering, for example, you yourself,
It's
Parsa,
gonna
like
go exponential?
no, but I mean, are you considering I need to retrain myself, or are you just like, oh, it's going to change step by step, and my role will change step by step, and I'll just
I
keep.
don't think it's gonna go step by step. It's gonna go.
So how are you preparing for it yourself?
I really don't know. That one I need to think about actually.
I think that many developers are, or at least the proper ones, are already doing that, are in like a constant learning cycle, right? I think that typically when you're on a position, you come into touch with stuff that you don't know. So you do some research, you train yourself, and then you get better. And the thing here is, at least when I take a look at my development work, and that is not like a full-time job, but I'm doing a lot of AI these days because it really helps me to solve problems quick, right? When I used to have a problem, I used to go to Google. Now I go to ChatGPT and it solves my problem in 5 minutes instead of like hours of searching.
But that's actually an interesting perspective because you're an entrepreneur and you have freedom to use any tools that you want. And if you're a consultant, like you are, Parsa, and you're working at an organization with a lot of security, you're much more limited in the AI tools you can use in your job, right?
Yeah, even right now we don't have an AI tool. We had it for a while. We had a Copilot, but that was for testing. I think it's going to come back. I'm not sure, but we're not using it yet.
Because that's what I hear when I talk.
I use ChatGPT a lot myself.
Privately, let's
privately,
say.
Yes.
Right.
So even in daily tasks, it doesn't necessarily have to be software engineering. So even if I want to make something, if I want to,
so you're still training yourself in that way.
Yes, I really like it because I'm a bit lazy with writing code or doing like a lot of stuff that are not necessary, or reading a lot of pages just to learn how a rice cooker works. So so I just take a picture of the rice cooker and just ask it to tell me how I use this.
Yeah. No, it's really, really convenient. My TV was broken yesterday, and typically it was like, oh my God, now I need to call the company. And these days, oh, okay, ChatGPT, hey, my TV does this. Oh, all right, maybe you could do this and do that and do such and so. And at the end, it was solved. So that was cool.
I'm always amazed by it. The part that I don't understand, maybe you have an answer for this. Someone once said, and I'm still thinking about that comparison, like, if you think about it, AI is almost like some kind of magical compression algorithm in the sense that it has so much knowledge, but it doesn't necessarily have the database. So I never understand. To me, it always seems like magic how it can know all these specific things without having seen this specific input, right? It's philosophically, I never can really wrap my head around it, how it works in that way.
It's like the cat example. So the model that they're using is sort of an NLP model.
And the cat I'm giving it is just slightly different from a cat it has seen. So it has seen some question about broken TVs. So then, well, it's still weird.
Searches, I feel that, right? It also goes and searches.
No, that's true. That's true.
Exactly. So ChatGPT changed. So indeed, they do searches now, and then based on the results, it comes up with a solution. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
I think it would be interesting to repeat this conversation in a year.
Yeah, probably. Would be nice to see what's going on.
That would be quite fascinating. Then we will listen back to what we said, and we will be like, "Oh no, we were so wrong," or not,
probably.
So maybe that's a nice way to end. So where will we be in a year? Then we can listen back actually and see. I want some hard predictions, like something interesting that we can check whether it was actually that it happened or didn't happen.
I think my prediction is that most companies will stop with enforcing security rules to using AI because it's giving them a really...
Okay, so Parsa can use AI in his job a year from now.
I really think that is going to be the case.
That's an interesting... let's check in a year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that not a lot would change in a year. Even though a lot of things would develop way faster than usual. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it would be exponentially fast, but nothing will change.
Like in real, nothing
No one
in
will
terms of
lose
like
their jobs
right,
yet.
right, in societal
Yeah.
terms.
No, I agree to that. I don't think it's going to go that fast. I think ChatGPT will have more functions, and you can probably generate videos instead of just images and stuff like that.
Okay, so Parsa still has a job, but he can now use AI in his job. That's our prediction for next year.
Yes.
Okay, let's check back next year. Thank you very much, Parsa. Thank you, JP, and
thank you. It was great.
let's continue exploring the fascinating world of AI.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.